Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review. Today we'll be talking about episode 6 for season 2 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, titled Trapped Inside. Now that's more like it. Where I was kind of let down with the last week's episode. I thought it was kind of messy. I just didn't think it was that great. This one makes up for it. This is my favorite episode since episode 2. Just a great, fun ride with a lot of interesting twists and turns, some surprises that I didn't see coming, and just all around just fun Evil Dead style half hour that was just great. Even some of the elements I didn't like in last week's episode, they made them work in this week's episode. One of the things I had a problem with last week was Ball. When he was introduced, I was kind of underwhelmed. But I like him in this one. He only appears in his regular form in one scene, and that's at the beginning, when all these townspeople come rushing into the police station to yell at the sheriff, saying, like, you let Ash get away with all this stuff, you're letting him kill all these people, what's wrong with you, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, Ball steps out of the crowd and starts talking to the sheriff, and is able to convince him to go after Ash, even though he knows that Ash is telling the truth, basically. He's seen all that stuff. And I thought that scene was great. I liked the way Ball talked to him. I was able to convince him. It was very well done. And I even liked the use of the sheriff kind of becoming a bad guy because of how Ball was able to kind of seduce people and really convince them to do what he wants them to do. That was really unique, and I just really liked that opening scene. For the rest of this episode, it takes place at Ash's house, where the entire group from last week is hiding out in there. While we find out what's actually going on with Pablo, it seems that the book is manifesting itself in Pablo, basically. He's basically turning into the Book of the Dead, which I feel so bad for Pablo this entire season. Just everything's been going wrong for him. He just is in constant pain, every episode. And I feel so bad for him because Pablo is such a likable guy. I love him in the first season. Just a nice little guy. And then this one, just so much shit happens to him. So basically, Ruby is trying to unleash the book in him as much as she can to where she can find this passage that she can use to stop Ball. So they're in Ash's bedroom trying to do that. There's this whole ceremony scene that involves Pablo just floating in midair, and just all the words of the Book of the Dead are coming up on his chest and stuff, which is just crazy. And while that's happening, the townsfolk is basically becoming a mob, and they all go to the house just trying to lure Ash out of there. And Kelly and Linda are trying to fend off that area, basically shooting at the civilians, trying to get them to stop and hold their ground as much as they can. Even though there's a lot going on in this one with multiple characters and multiple events, Ash is still able to become the focus of this episode because of one thing that surprised the hell out of me and I did not see coming. As he goes upstairs to go to his room to see what's going on with Pablo and all that stuff, he hears a sound coming from Cheryl's room, his sister. And he goes there, finds out it's just Chet, and he's doing some stuff while looking at Cheryl's clothes and a picture of her. That's all I'll really say. And then, what surprised the hell out of me, what I did not see coming, Cheryl shows up. Played by the actual actress from the original Evil Dead, Ellen Sandweiss, reprising her role. And that was so cool. I love that. That was so awesome. My only kind of flaw with that whole thing of bringing back Cheryl is that they basically just turn it into an action scene afterwards. There's this one really good scene where Ash and Chet are standing in the hallway, and all of a sudden the door opens and Cheryl walks out, and that was a holy shit reveal. And I like that scene, and I get it, there's not a whole lot you can really do with it because we all know she's a Deadite, of course, because we saw her die in the first movie. But I want a little bit more with that, because right after that one cool scene in the hallway, all of a sudden she turns to a Deadite, it just turns to an action scene, and that's all. But that being said, that action scene was really well done, and it was a ton of fun. That was just, again, I just thought it was so cool actually bringing that actress back, connecting it to the first movie like that was so unique and just freaking awesome. And then that leads to a sad moment. Chet dies. Cheryl just basically rips her arm through his chest, holding out his heart. And I'm kind of mixed on that death scene because, one, it sucks as Ted Raimi and he's getting killed off already because, Ted Raimi's awesome. But two, I'm not going to lie, the Chet character, I was starting to kind of lose interest in him. He's a very one-note character who worked when you first saw him in the first couple episodes. He was a ton of fun in those episodes. But even last week's episode, I was kind of getting annoyed with him. It's weird for me because it's not as much sad that Chet died. It's more so sad that Ted Raimi died. If it makes any sense. But they did his death scene so well because, everything just has to go wrong for Ash. His dad died right after believing him and telling him that he thinks he's a great person. And of course, Chet dies right after Ash goes on this whole thing about how Chet is his best friend, person he always trusted, person who never let him down, and then boom, he's dead. Just to make things worse. And I love that. I thought that was so great. It just makes things even worse for Ash. And there's even a moment during the whole stuff with Pablo in the room where Ruby gets thrown back and she has a wound on her side. And Kelly's all just like, just, hey, do the spell, heal up, let's go. She's like, I can't. And she reveals that her kids took away her mortality. So there we go. That was one of the open-ended questions from last week. That's what happens, and that's why she's immortal now, because her kids took it away. And I thought that was really interesting. And I love the ending when Ash shoots Cheryl and she flies out the door right in front of the townspeople. And he basically is able to convince them that Deadites are real by just constantly shooting Cheryl a bunch of times. She keeps getting up until he finally just chops her head off. And I love that moment where he kicks her into the trunk of the car and then just like stands on top of it and just chops her head off. I thought that was really cool. I like that whole ending. It's clearly finally is able to convince the townspeople that he's not ashy slashy, that he truly is a good guy. And then the cliffhanger for this episode basically is he finally confronts Ball. Except it's not Ball in his true form. He's in the skin of this lady. And they have a conversation together and then Ball just knocks him out. And that's kind of where it ends. And it's like, what is he going to do with him? It's really interesting. So that's the cliffhanger, which is a good cliffhanger. Just overall, I love this episode. It had a lot of great Evil Dead elements. They even brought back the evil force that kind of roams through the woods. That, like, just the camera moving through the woods. That we haven't seen in a while on the show. So bringing that back was cool. It felt a lot more in line with Evil Dead. A lot of stuff in the house had a lot of great atmosphere, a lot of creepy moments. There's a scene where just blood just starts coming off the walls. Like, first starts coming through a nail in the wall, and then starts coming off the wall in just classic Evil Dead style. So it had brought back a lot of good Evil Dead elements. And, I still think the show is getting a little overcrowded with characters, because there's a lot of characters we have to deal with. In this episode alone, you have inside the house, you have Ash, Pablo, Kelly, Ruby, Linda, her daughter, Chet. And then you have outside, you have the sheriff, and then you have Ball. It's a lot of characters. That's kind of my one flaw with this episode, though it kind of applies to the season as a whole, just that there's a lot too many characters. But that aside, this episode just made up for last week's messy, disjointed episode, and just was great and just a ton of fun. Just seeing Cheryl back I thought was so cool, just bringing that actress back. Seeing her as a Deadite with like really good Deadite makeup compared to the cheaper makeup in the original. Even some callbacks with Ash standing against a wall and her arms break through and grab him. Like in the movie when he's standing against the door and her arms break through and grab him. Thought that was a good nod. So overall just a really solid episode that I just enjoyed the hell out of. That just brings the show back up to its greatness that was kind of lacking last week's. And just makes me excited for more. So yeah, that's about it for now. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.